Hello, and thank you for watching Accelerate with Nerdio. In today's video, we will discuss installing MS Office on your golden image or pool template. As always, please remember to check the video description for additional links and updates, and definitely check out help.nerdio.net for access to all of our articles and videos. And so our agenda today, let's look at the Office versions and some of the licensing examples. Let's talk about accessing the template, quickly talk about the Office deployment tool, and then we'll run through installing Office. So when we think about licensing Office, right, there are a couple different flavors of Office. There are definitely different types of Microsoft licensing that will satisfy that Office. And when we think about WVD, you're also satisfying Win 10. So make sure you reach out to your Microsoft distributor or Microsoft relationship to better understand the available Office and licensing packages. A couple that I'll just quickly talk about, right? Maybe you're bringing in just Pro Plus, so Pro Plus Office licensing, and if you're using a WVD desktop, you're also going to purchase a Win 10 license. Maybe you're using M365 licensing, which with business will include the Win 10 license and the M365 Business Office version. Additionally, M365 E3 or E5 bring in enterprise versions of the product. Now with all that, let's jump in and actually start to install Office. So I've got the NAP open. I'm looking at my users list. I'm going to use this view setting here to toggle admin users. And this is just to say, hey, I've got this install admin. It has domain admin rights. This is what I'm going to use to connect and install Office. And I'm going to go ahead and go to servers. Now, in today's example, I'm going to install Office on the golden desktop image, right? So the golden desktop can be used to create new pool templates or new desktops. And that means if I were to create a new desktop, after placing Office on this, Office will be installed for that desktop. If I were to create a pool with this template, then that pool template's going to have Office on it, and I can start to build out other apps beyond that. So in this case, I've already powered on the golden image template. As you may recall, by default, RDP is blocked at the firewall level. So by clicking Generate RDP File, it will open up a temporary RDP rule from my IP address that I can use to get to that desktop. We'll go ahead and hit download here. Okay, I've got my authentication. I'm now connecting to that golden image desktop. And I'm going to give it a moment to open here. And let's go ahead and confirm that we don't already have Office installed. I'll give this a second to open up the desktop. And I've got the desktop up, and I also want to point out this installing Office article that's at help.nerdio.net. This is our guide for today. So it has that conversation about licensing that we just had, and then it also has the needed commands we're going to use to leverage the Office deployment tool. And so let's take a quick moment and do what we discussed. Let's go to appwiz.cpl. That opens up Control Panel. We'll see that Office is not installed on here, so that's great. And now I'm also going to go ahead and open up Explorer, and let's go to FS01, right? That's our file server, and I'm going to go directly to the share of E, and I see I've got installs, and this is where the article starts, right? So we're going to go to Microsoft 365 deployment, and what we want to see here, right, is we're going to leverage the Office deployment tool. That is the setup.exe here, and that goes alongside an XML file that tells it how to install the product. So if we look at this article, the first thing we're going to do is leverage that to download Office. So we see that we've got a folder it'll download into, which we're going to use O365 Pro Plus Retail for this example. And so that means that this O365 Pro Plus Retail folder will get the Office files brought down to it. So we know we'll get the latest version. And so again, that's all going to be done by simply running this at the command prompt. So it's that setup executable with an attribute trigger of download. So it goes out and downloads it, and it looks at that XML file for any needed details. And let's go ahead and open that up real quick as well. We use Notepad++ here. Ooh, got our little alert there. And we can see the XML file. If you need to do any modifications here, they can be done. This will come up again when we go to do the actual install. And something I want to point out here is that Office Updates Enabled is set to true. We're actually going to change that to false. And what that means is that when it sets up Office, it will set automatic updates to false, which means that when you use your template to create new desktops, you want to make sure it's not going to trigger updates to be running on those desktops, right? You want to control your updates hosts in a WVD pool are dynamic. They can come and go. So it's just going to waste CPU utilization, and you don't have control over your updates if you just let the updater run on any session host that get built. So again, we're going to use this to make sure that those updates are set to false. And then when I want to update Office, I'll actually go in, enable it on the template, run the updates, and then set it back into a false state or a pause state. And so let's go ahead and we're going to grab the needed command line, and I'm going to open up command prompt. I'm going to actually run that as an administrator. Perfect. And I'm going to paste this in, and this is going to run silently in the background, right? Again, it's running the download whack there. And so if I go to task manager, we'll give this a second, and I'm running this on a B series, a very low level CPU. So this is going to be a little slow for me. And let's see, if we expand this out, we can actually see that that setup's running in the background. And if we go to this, we can see that Pro Plus Retail is starting to get information. I'm going to hit pause for just a moment, and I'll come back when the download has completed. All right, that download is completed. And again, I just want to remind everyone, we're using the Office deployment tool. This is provided by Microsoft. And so you definitely want to go to Microsoft directly if you run into any issues, if you have questions about editing the XML doc. And again, as a reminder, right, that XML doc in this instance is just being used to set a default no update setting. And this is referenced in the article as well. So now that that's downloaded, we can push the install silently onto the template, right? So we don't have to go through and select options. Everything's kind of prepared in that XML doc. So if I come down here, I'm going to grab this command line, and I'm going to go ahead and paste that in. And what have we done? We're saying from FSO1 in that M365 deployment folder, we've got a setup.exe file. Let's go back one step here. And we're going to use it to force a configuration, which is that XML, and that XML is going to lead it through the install process, right? We've gone from download to install and configure. And we'll go ahead and hit enter here. There we go. And we're going to see that if we look at our task manager, this is starting to kick off again. And then we will actually see the Office runtime installer starting momentarily. And I'll hit pause and wait for it to get to that point. And we can actually see that's kicked off now. We've got that click to run running. And that means that once this completes, Office will be installed on the template. And I'll come right back on as that completes. All right, the installer is just completing. I can actually see it here in Add Remove Programs now. We've got that 365 Apps for Enterprise. And I went ahead and I opened Excel, and I just want to show here, right, under Account, we can see that Office updates are not set to automatically happen. Again, I would push those onto the template when I want them. I don't want them running on the hosts, as, again, it'll eat up CPU cycles. It could push updates that you haven't tested yet, right? Same with Windows updates, right? We keep these paused on the templates so they're not running on the hosts. We update the templates, and then we rebuild the hosts when we feel that we've tested and we're ready. I'm going to go ahead and minimize this for a moment. And, once that's all done, I would generally come in here and do a restart, give that a minute or two, and then we would run power off and set as golden. That puts it back in the template state, and that means it's ready for new desktops to be built. Again, I highly recommend looking at the description of the video. We're going to have a link to that Office deployment tool, a link to our Installing Office article. And if you need anything further, definitely consider looking at Microsoft if it's specific to those tools. If it's Nerdio specific, always come see us at help.nerdio.net. Thank you so much.